is 1 hour 30, Universal Time. I'm Jim Tedder in Washington. Egyptian officials say 3 explosions in the city of Dahab have killed at least 23 people. They say more than 60 others were wounded. Officials said earlier that they had counted 30 dead. Reports say the explosions took place within seconds in the central part of the city near several hotels and markets. No one has claimed responsibility. Dahab is on the Gulf of Aqaba. It is popular with visitors. Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak called the explosions terrorism and said officials will find those responsible. In the United States, President Bush strongly condemned the bombings. The United States has called on Nepalese political leaders to answer the demand of their people and bring democracy to the country. Earlier, thousands of people in Nepal celebrated in the streets after King Gyanendra announced that he is re-establishing Parliament. The king said he is making the move to resolve Nepal's political conflicts and other problems. Re-establishing Parliament was a main demand of protesters who held 19 days of demonstrations. At least 14 people were killed during the protests. Opposition political leaders called the king's announcement a victory for the people. King Gyanendra dismissed the elected government of Nepal 14 months ago and gave himself total power. He said the government had failed to end a rebellion. Panamanian President Martín Torrijos has announced a plan to build a new passage along the Panama Canal. This will permit its use by the world's largest ships. Mr. Torrijos announced the plan in Panama City. He called the expansion the most important decision about the canal and the part it will play in the 21st century. The new passage would increase by 2 times the size of the ships that could travel through the canal that links the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. The expansion will cost more than $5,000 million and is expected to be completed in 2014. The measure must be decided by a vote later this year. Public opinion studies show that Panamanians support the expansion plan. President Bush again has called for a law to permit more foreign citizens to enter the United States as temporary workers. Mr. Bush made the statement in a speech in the western state of California. He said worker identification cards would permit foreigners to get jobs without violating laws or paying people to bring them into the country illegally. He said about 6 million people have been caught trying to cross into the United States from Mexico in the last 5 years. The President praised a Senate legislative proposal that calls for strengthening border security and providing a chance for citizenship to people already in the country illegally. Many lawmakers agree on the need for immigration reform, but cannot agree on the details. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries says it will not increase production even though oil prices are very high. The oil minister of Nigeria is president of OPEC. He told representatives from 58 countries meeting in Qatar that political issues are keeping oil prices high. Oil Minister Ali al-Naimi from Saudi Arabia also said high prices are not being caused by a lack of supply. American Energy Secretary Samuel Bodman called for more security at energy centers around the world so that oil would continue to flow. You are listening to the news in VOA Special English. The American ambassador to the United Nations says the Security Council is to consider a resolution that will legally require Iran to honor international nuclear demands. John Bolton said the resolution will be considered because there has been no change in the Iranian nuclear program. He said there is no reason to believe there will be such a change. Permanent Security Council members China and Russia have expressed opposition to UN action against Iran. They would like the International Atomic Energy Agency to deal with the situation. Iranian leaders have said they are continuing with nuclear activities that violate a Security Council demand made last month. The President of Iran has said he does not expect the United Nations Security Council to place restrictions on Iran. In Iraq, a series of bombings and shootings in Baghdad has killed at least 14 Iraqis and wounded more than 80 others. At least 8 people were killed when 7 bombs exploded near the Ministry of Health, a university, and in other parts of the city. Separate shooting attacks killed 6 Iraqis. Separately, officials say the bodies of at least 17 others also were found in Baghdad. The agriculture minister in Malawi says Africa is not prepared to fight bird flu. Uladi Musa spoke to a 19-nation bird flu conference taking place in Malawi. He said the lack of knowledge among health officials is as dangerous as a lack of drugs or medical equipment. An official of the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization also spoke to the delegates. Mazlan Jusso said most African countries remain free of bird flu. But he also said African nations should act now against the disease. He said poverty and limited health education and services could leave Africa especially open to bird flu. The deadly H5N1 version of bird flu has been found in 5 African nations. In Pakistan, officials said they killed more than 40,000 chickens after the disease was found in several farms near Islamabad. And now, briefly, here again is the major news of the hour. Egyptian officials say 3 explosions in the city of Dahab have killed at least 23 people. Thousands of Nepalese have celebrated in the streets after King Gyanendra announced that he is re-establishing Parliament. And the President of Panama has announced a plan to expand the Panama Canal. And that's the news in VOA Special English. From Washington, this is Jim Tedder reporting.